Peace, family. It's your brother, Marc Lamont Hill. Welcome to Night School. Every night here on the Marc Lamont Hill official YouTube channel, we hold Night School. 9 p.m. Eastern Time right here. We have a conversation about the biggest issues going on in the world, the most intense debates, the toughest conversation, the hottest issues. And we don't do a drive-by. We don't do talking points. We don't do cheap cable news drive-bys. We do deep analysis. It's not a cable show. It is not a podcast. It is a global classroom. And tonight we start with some frustrating and sad news. The long-standing struggle for reparations for the Tulsa race massacre, it continues to fight on, and it has suffered another defeat. For years, actually a century now, over a century, the 1921 race massacre in Tulsa, Oklahoma, which was one of the most violent, one of the most despicable, one of the most destructive acts of white supremacist terrorism this country has ever produced, and it's produced a lot. It resulted in the destruction of Black Wall Street. And what is often the case in this country is that justice is delayed until justice is denied. And so the 300 people, the 300 Black folk who were killed by a white mob at Black Wall Street back in 1921, they deserved justice. And they kept delaying and delaying and delaying until everybody died. And now, 123 years later, just about, the struggle for justice continues as the last two known survivors, Leslie Benningfield Randall and Viola Ford Fletcher, keep attempting to get reparations by going to the court. And the courts keep dismissing the lawsuit. Well, today, the Oklahoma Supreme Court affirmed a lower court's dismissal of the lawsuit. We actually have a clip of the decision, I think, here. What they basically attempted to do, the plaintiffs, was say that this was an ongoing public nuisance. That was the angle they took legally, right? They said that the women, these two women who were small children at the time, they were around for the destruction, and that the white mob that destroyed and massacred everybody, they created an ongoing public nuisance, and they wanted reparations for the nuisance. The lower court said no, and as you see here, they said, we affirm the district court's July 12th, 2023 final order of dismissal with prejudice. With respect to their public nuisance claim, though plaintiffs' grievances are legitimate, right? They're saying they're right. They do not fall within the scope of our state's public nuisance statute. We further hold that plaintiffs' allegations do not sufficiently support a claim for unjust enrichment. Unjust enrichment, meaning that the people gained money or other resources unjustly from their crime, nor do the allegations sufficiently support a claim for the unauthorized use of name and likeness under, and they name the statute. So basically, the plaintiffs here were trying to say that this was a public nuisance, one, and two, plenty of money came out of that public nuisance. Y'all benefited from this. The court said no, and it wasn't close. They said in a vote of 8-1 that it should be upheld. They filed the lawsuit in 2020, and it's continued to go. There were 3 people at the time who filed, but Van Ellis, another survivor of the massacre, died at the age of 102. And of course, the city of Tulsa, they respond as well, saying that they respect the court's decision and they affirm the significance of the work the city continues to do in North Tulsa and Greenwood. That's where the stuff happened. And they're talking about economic policy development, blah, 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 blah. They're basically saying, we ain't giving you reparations and we don't have to. And when you see 102-year-old Black people, Black women, continue to fight and struggle for reparations, it ain't because they want the money. She's 102. It's a principle. And this is more proof that no matter how much principle we have, no matter how principled our arguments are, no matter how principled our struggle is, they still ain't giving it to us without a fight. It's a reminder that justice delayed is justice denied, just as we learned in the Brown v. Board decision, just as we learned in Plessy, just as we learned throughout history. Whenever we're fighting for rights and laws, we can't just wait. It'll come to us eventually. No, it won't. This woman waited 102 years and still doesn't have it. But this is a reminder of the bigger need for a reparations struggle. The Tulsa massacre is a slice of a bigger piece of an American project of undermining Black prosperity, exploiting Black labor, extracting Black value, taking everything they can from us, and then using it to monetize their own imperial ambitions. And when you look at what they got, it was unjust enrichment. Because in Tulsa, what they did was they destroyed Black Wall Street. They destroyed a community and a mechanism of Black empowerment and Black self-determination. They took what we had. They saw it and they destroyed it. And by destroying the mechanism for Black economic empowerment, they created a class of Black folk or a community of Black folk who were increasingly dependent upon the state and upon white private labor. And so by destroying our own businesses, we now need your businesses. And by needing your businesses, your wealth is built up. Your access to capital is increased. You get more stuff. And these women you see on the screen and their children and their community members, they don't get those things. So while it might not be a direct line of an unjust enrichment, like you blew up my store and then built a store on top of it, what you did was you tried to make us more dependent on the state. You tried to make us more economically vulnerable, and it worked. But the fact that these elders, look at this man wearing a U.S. Army hat. This man served the country, fought for the very empire that's exploiting his people. That's what Black folk have always done. We have committed to America. We have invested in America, and America was built on our backs. And as a result of that, we deserve reparations. Every single descendant of slavery in America deserves reparations from America. And we're going to continue to fight for it, and we're going to continue to keep you up to date on not just the Tulsa case, but every case of reparations, every fight for reparations, every struggle for reparations going on around the country. In Arizona, man tries to start a race war. Now, I know you're thinking, oh, he's being hyperbolic. He's exaggerating. Just every time you talk about something with Black and white people, it ain't a race war. No, this man was literally trying to start a race war. A man in Arizona named Marc Adams Prieto. He was arrested in May for planning a mass shooting. He said he wanted to create the conditions where a bunch of people died, right? He believed, in fact, according to an affidavit by FBI agents, or, an affidavit by the federal government, he became suspicious and alarming over the course of a year. And he said that he was, quote, advocating for a mass shooting and specifically targeting Blacks, Jews, and Muslims. Now, how do they know this? Well, apparently Marc Prieto, had fallen into a relationship with undercover agents. And at the undercover agents sort of notice, the government started paying attention to this guy. Why? Because he was trying to transfer guns. He was trying to transfer weapons to people so that they could have this race war. Now, he was indicted by a federal grand jury today, June 11th, and the charges were firearms trafficking, transfer of a firearm for use in a hate crime, and possession of an unregistered firearm. Now, according to the indictment, between January and May of this year, he had discussions with two undercover agents working for the FBI to devise a plan to commit a mass shooting of African Americans and other minorities, again, Jews and Muslims, to incite a race war right before the 2024 presidential election. Now, they didn't say who he was voting for. They didn't say who he wanted to win the presidency, but I'm going to give you a real good guess. Now, of course, he didn't know they were working for the government. So he was sharing all his racist beliefs, and he was talking about all the stuff that all the stuff that he believed. So he says he's going to sell these rifles to people. He sold an AK style rifle in February of 2024 and an AR style rifle in March of 2024, February 25th and March 24th. And they're watching this guy, right? They're watching him moving up and down the highway. They're watching him transfer this stuff. And the plan was to stage a mass killing of Black people And so where does he want to have the shooting? Not in Arizona. Ain't that many Negroes there. He says, let's have the mass shooting in Atlanta. And according to the most recent sources, he wanted to have the shooting at a Bad Bunny concert. Now, this is tragic and this is awful. It's also a little ridiculous. Like, you gonna kill a bunch of black people, like just regular old black people? And Atlanta's the place to go. That makes sense to me. But a Bad Bunny concert? I mean, no disrespect to Bad Bunny. Bad Bunny's a phenom. Bad Bunny is a global international superstar. Bad Bunny is all that. But if you were going to go to Atlanta to kill a bunch of black people, it would seem to me that there's a lot of other black people. You could have went to the SWV Escape Tour. You could have went to wait for Drake to show up. You could have waited for, you know what I'm saying? You could have went to Frankie Beverly and Maze. There's all kinds of black people in all kinds of places. But he said he wanted to go to a rap concert. And this is the problem with white supremacists. They're stupid. You want to kill as many black people in one concert, and the one you chose was Bad Bunny in Atlanta? Whatever. Neither here nor there. He wanted to kill all the people, and he said he was going to leave Confederate flags planted in the ground after the shooting. These people are crazy. But I needed to be clear that they're not singular. These are people who have developed and nurtured racist ideologies throughout life. These are people who have been disaffected, people who have been economically marginalized. These are people who got bad ways to go. And of course, when you have a fascist leader like Donald Trump, and let me be clear, I'm not saying Donald Trump made this man do this. I'm saying people like Donald Trump influence him. The era of Trump influenced him. I don't want Donald Trump suing me right now. He needs to come up. When we enter this space where economically poor people are exploited across the country, white people, like Du Bois said back in 1930 when he wrote Black Reconstruction, white people tend to close ranks around whiteness, not around their economic vulnerability. So when a whole bunch of poor white people in the South get desperate, they don't say, hey, let's join forces with poor black people and create economic justice struggle. Let's organize so that we can get a minimum wage. No, they say, these Negroes took the job. These Mexicans took the job. And look, there's a guy who's just like us. And then they look at Donald Trump, who's a freaking alleged billionaire. Not really a billionaire, according to sources, but he's damn close. And he damn sure got more money than them they do. And he says, you know who your problem is? Not me, the billionaire, who's hoarding wealth. No, it's you, black person. It's you, Mexican. It's you, undocumented. It's you, trans person. And they point all the energy in all these places. So these white disaffected folk get angrier and angrier and angrier. And they start to believe that the world is downhill and their economic fortunes are moving downhill, not because of anything they did and not because the economy is exploiting them, but because of minorities. And so they start doing it. And that's what this guy, Prieto, did. There's the affidavit that says that he told the agents why he chose Atlanta. And he said the reason he chose Atlanta to kill all them people, he said, why is Georgia such a blank state now? It's an expletive. Effed up, I'm sure is the word. Or maybe not, but it's an expletive. Why is Georgia such a blank state now? He said, when I was a kid, that was one of the most conservative states in the country. Why is it not now? Because as the crime got worse in St. Louis and all these other cities, all the niggers moved out of those places and moved to Atlanta. So he said he wanted to cause panic and pandemonium. Those are his words, panic and pandemonium at a concert. And then while the panic and the pandemonium comes, he was just going to shoot everybody. Well, right now, only thing he's going to get shot is bail. He's facing 15 years in prison and a $250,000 fine just on the firearms trafficking charge. He's facing another 10 years in prison and $250,000 for the unregistered firearm charge. I warn you, I urge you, do not think of this as an individual crazy racist person. It is, but don't think about it that way. Instead, I'm urging you to think about this case as a sign of the danger in front of us. January 6th was a sign of the danger in front of us. This is a sign of the danger in front of us. Trump is a sign of the danger in front of us. We have work to do. And the work is to organize and fight against this movement. But we can't fight the movement if we don't recognize the movement. Donald Trump didn't create white supremacy or racist. All he did was put some dumbass red hats on them so you could recognize them when they're standing outside. And now that we know who they are and where they are, we got to organize and fight the way they do. Because right now, the red hats are winning. And we can't have that. We definitely can't have that in November. All right, y'all. We're talking about racists. So let me just move to another story about racists. There's a woman on TikTok a couple days ago who went viral for all the wrong reasons. She quite casually used the N-word in a post that she made. Check this out.
Everybody I know who's married right now, they're married to broke-ass niggas. And they don't care. We don't give a fuck about your money. I couldn't care less about your fucking money, okay?
So, no matter how many times I hear white people use that N-word, it's gross to me. It's unsettling to me. It sits in my stomach. It's disgusting. Like, the obsession y'all have with this N-word, white people, it's like white people control everything in the world. And I think y'all are obsessed about the N-word because it's the one thing that you told you can't do. Oh my God, we have everything. If we could just get that word, we'd be fine. You know, that's the energy I get. And so to watch you all use it, or to watch you all flaunt it, or to watch Black people try to give white people license to use it, it's crazy. And to have you use it ironically or playfully is disgusting. It is a racist epithet when used by white people. And I'm not saying Black people should use it. But what I am saying is it ain't the same as when white people use it. And what she did right there, it was gratuitous. It wasn't a song she was singing. It wasn't relative to the topic. She just wanted to call somebody the N-word. And just because you say it with an A versus an ER, that don't make me feel any better, white woman. And people told her that what she did was trash. People told her that using a word like that wasn't okay. She didn't seem to care. In fact, here's how she responded.
A recent video of mine seems to have upset members of a certain community, and all the backlash just really made me, just really do a deep dive, like do a soul search. And after all that, I still couldn't find a care.
I mean, you got to give her credit for part of that. Usually when white people get caught saying racist things, they do the mea culpa. They do the Stations of the Cross for race. You know what I'm saying? They go through and they act like they were hurt and they act like they were upset and they talk about how they don't know what came over them and that's not who they are. Nah, she ain't do none of that. She ain't do none of that. She did something quite different. She said, I don't care.
So a recent video of mine.
She said, I don't care. And this is the video where she said, thanks, Black community, for helping launch my new career in conservative media. You all played your role well. She said, you all played your role well. What does she mean by that? Here's what she means by that. She, prior to, I'm going to show y'all something here. I'm pulling up myself. Sorry, Princess. She had posted, oh no, I just got fired on Twitter. Oh no, and then she put hashtag mob, right? She put hashtag mob. So what she's basically saying is, and this is true, Black people and other people went and found her job. They found out where she worked. They went to her job and said, this woman is using the N-word. And guess what? The job fired her. Now, this is one of them times where, you know, doxing ain't the worst thing. I generally don't like when people track people's info down, and when people look for what people do for a living, or they find their house and they take them down. Because a lot of time they're outing people like college students who are protesting, or queer people who just want to live their life, right? But this time, Twitter got busy. They went to this website right here, Rough OTC. It's like occupational therapy, it seems like. I don't know the proper term for these things, but she was an employee of Rafi of the Carolinas. It's in Wilmington, North Carolina. She had a LinkedIn profile, and they went to her LinkedIn profile, and she was a business development, marketing, and sales manager there. That was the idea. She was a marketing and sales manager at this place, Rafi. And they found that LinkedIn, and they found a job, and they got her up out the paint quick, early. And that's why she posted, "Oh no," or "I lost my job." And so when she goes back and posts that post about the Black community helping her, she's saying, yeah, I got fired, but now I'm going to launch a career in social media and in conservative media. Now, here's the crazy part. She might not be wrong. You know, when I heard her say that, I was thinking, oh, you just mad. You just trying to cover up for you salty because you got fired. And you try to make it seem as if the Black community did just what you wanted them to do. No, they didn't. You ain't want to get fired. You did not want to get fired. You went to work yesterday thinking you were going to have a job today. You went and you went to your desk, you went to your little cubicle thinking that you could leave your stapler in the desk and you could leave your pictures of your family up there because you thought you'd be back next week. And then they fired you. And so now you're trying to make it seem like that's how you planned it because you want to be a right-wing talker. But here's the crazy part. It might work. This woman has no discernible media talent. There's no reason to believe she belongs on TV or TikTok or any of these other video streams or whatever, but it does not matter because today anybody can be a talking head. All you got to do is have an opinion that sets people off. And what sets people off more than saying the N-word? So you got Black people who hate her. You have white people who love her, and you have these conservative white MAGA people who are going to pretend that this is about the First Amendment, that they are defending and protecting free speech, and all you're doing is propping up a white supremacist racist. Now, she could just be talking trash and playful. We may never hear from her again. But either way, the fact that on social media, this woman is getting this much attention, the fact that she's getting this much support, and the fact that it's plausible that she could get a right-wing media job, even if it's just on social media, says a lot about the world we're in. But I want to shout out everybody that got her fired. Good job. Thank you. Salute to you. Well done. These white supremacists, get them fired. These predators, get them fired. These evil people, get them fired. I'm not saying get everybody fired who you disagree with. I don't believe in that. People have a right to disagree. People have a right to have opinions that we don't agree with. People have a right to have terrible, disgusting opinions. But what they don't have a right to do is prey on people. They don't have a right to disrespect people. Now, it's a free market. She has a right to say the N-word, but I, as an employer, have a right to say, I don't want to hire people that use the N-word. And if I'm a representative of my company, if I'm a representation of what my company believes in, its values, and you doing this, and yeah, you make me look bad. And most people have contracts that say and dictate your public comportment, your public behavior, your public attitude. So I don't think anything wrong happened there. Shout out again to everybody that got that white woman fired. And please, y'all, don't make her into another celebrity. Let's keep that thing moving. Speaking. All right, family, it is now time for the War on Gaza report. Every single day here on the channel, we cover Israel's war on Gaza. And today, the war on Gaza reaches day 250. Is it 250? Can you believe that? 250. Most of these Israeli operations in the Gaza Strip take 25 days, 40 days, 50 days. We are now a solid 250 days, over 8 months of genocidal war in the Gaza Strip. And we're going to keep covering it every single day so that the world knows what's happening. We begin today, as we always do, with the numbers. As of today, at least 37,202 people have been killed in Gaza, and another 84,932 have been wounded. Again, 37,202 people killed, 84,932 wounded in Israel's war on Gaza since October 7th. I'm talking about dead Palestinians. Let's name what it is. And of course, we can name the death toll in Israel from the October 7th Hamas attack remains at 1,139. We're talking, though, about 37,000 Palestinians dead and another 8,000 who lay under the rubble. These are the real stakes. And as that's going on, the numbers aren't getting better. As of today, according to the Gazan Health Ministry and the Gazan government, 15,000 children, actually, let me give you the exact number, 15,694 children have been killed. The war on Gaza has had a particularly devastating impact on children. More than 1% of the child population in Gaza has been killed. 17,000 children in Gaza are without their parents. 17,000 are parentless after 250 days of war. One of the things about genocide is getting rid of the kids. One of the things about settler colonialism is destroying not just the past and erasing memory, but also destroying any connection and possibility of a future. And what's happening in Gaza right now is an example of that. It is a case par excellence of that. They're destroying the kids, literally, they're killing them, but they're also destroying the playgrounds. They're also destroying the schools. They're also destroying the mosques and the churches. They're destroying the art centers. They're destroying every part of civil society, every part of cultural, social life in Gaza. They're destroying. And when they do that, the children suffer. And that's what we're seeing right now in Gaza. Anyway, at a press briefing in Qatar, which continues to try to broker peace here, U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken says that some changes proposed by Hamas to get to the ceasefire are not workable. The press briefing was a specific response to people in the Hamas organization saying, hey, we're ready. We got a written proposal. We made an offer. Well, Blinken says, quote, Hamas has proposed numerous changes to the proposal that was on the table. We discussed those changes last night with Egyptian colleagues and today with the prime minister. Some of the changes are workable. Others are not. What those changes are is unclear. I would wager a guess that it has to do with the permanence of Hamas in the area, them being able to hold on to a leadership position, a leadership role in the Gaza Strip. That seems to be a non-starter for Israel, the United States, Egypt, and Qatar, or certainly Israel, the United States. That's no doubt about that. I can't speak for Israel and Qatar right now. But it's also a non-starter for Hamas that no one is going to agree to a proposal that then eliminates themselves. So that's where we are. So even though Hamas and the Palestinian Islamic Jihad said, look, we're all in, it's not clear what that means. On another note, UNICEF says homes, hospitals, schools, universities, agriculture, the economy devastated, and still the bombs fall. That is what a UNICEF official said. And what they're effectively saying is the world is indifferent, and certainly Israel is indifferent to the fact that every part of the built environment, every part of the human life possibility attached to Gaza is being undermined by what's going on right now in the Strip. In addition to that, Hezbollah continues to fight Israel, and they announced today that one of their senior commanders was killed in an Israeli attack on Lebanon. So we'll keep you updated on the wars. We'll keep you updated on what's going on the West Bank, which continues to be a battleground for Palestinian and Israeli people. And let me put that differently. It's really a battleground where Israeli settlers are expanding settlements illegally, where they're raiding settlements. Where they're raiding refugee camps in Palestinian villages, and where Palestinian people continue to be on the underside of the Israeli occupation and an apartheid state. Anyway, that is the Gaza report. Stay with us every single day as we continue to give you updates on Israel's war on Gaza, and we will do it until the war ends. And ultimately, we'll continue to cover this issue until there is a free Palestine. Before we end the show, we have to acknowledge a tragic passing. If you work in the political realm, then you've heard the name Howard Fineman. Howard Fineman is one of the best, most respected, and most talented political journalists of his generation. I met Howard Fineman at Huffington Post, where we were peers and colleagues for several years. I regularly interviewed Howard about what was going on in DC because he always had his finger on the pulse of the Beltway. He always understood what was happening in Capitol Hill. He was always at the cutting edge of what was happening. And of course, he left HuffPost after spending 3 decades at Newsweek. He joined HuffPost after 3 decades at Newsweek, and he left HuffPost to join the team at NBC, where he started. He had a long and storied career in journalism that began at Colgate University. He was a cub reporter and ultimately the editor-in-chief at the Colgate Maroon newspaper. He was a bright light. He had a curious mind. He had an excellent wit. He was a beautiful spirit. And as much as I could talk about Howard Fineman, the journalist, I think that the most beautiful thing about Howard Fineman was Howard Fineman, the person. In a business that is often overtaken by bitterness and competitiveness and anger and jealousy, Howard always had perspective. He was always collegial. He was always generous. He was always welcoming. He was always kind. He was always gentle. He was always funny. Howard Fineman was a pleasure to work with, and he is an example for generations to come of what committed, engaged, principled journalism should look like. And so I'm sending my deepest love and condolences to Howard's family and his friends and his numerous fans, who he more accurately saw as family. Rest in peace, Howard. May your memory be a blessing. And as we talk about death, we also, before we go tonight, have to talk about the passing of the great Jerry West. Jerry West is possibly the most important figure in NBA history. Jerry West is a legendary basketball player. Starting off in West Virginia and eventually joining the Los Angeles Lakers, he spent 14 years playing for that storied franchise, helping turn it into the storied franchise that it was. When he retired, he was only the 3rd player in NBA history to reach 25,000 points. He was an all-star in every year of his career. He reached the NBA Finals 9 times. Now, he didn't always win. In fact, he usually didn't win. He only won 1 title. He did it in 1971, 72. But even when he lost, he was great. He is the only person, and he did it in 1969. He's the only person to win the MVP of the finals and lose the series. That's how extraordinary he was. He made the greatest team of the 50th anniversary of the NBA. He made the greatest team of the 75th anniversary of the NBA. He was the connector to basketball royalty. He played with the great Elgin Baylor, one of the great scorers of all times. He played with Wilt the Stilt Chamberlain, helping him get a necessary second championship. He was a giant. In fact, he is such a mythical and heroic figure in basketball that when you look at the NBA logo, that NBA logo that you see everywhere with the person with the basketball, the silhouette of somebody holding, dribbling a basketball and cutting to the basket, that's Jerry West. He is literally the logo of the NBA, and he deserved it because he was Mr. Clutch. He was a giant. But he wasn't just a giant as a player. Jerry West was a giant as a GM. After a brief and not so successful stint at coaching the Los Angeles Lakers, he settled in as an executive. And he became undoubtedly the greatest executive that the NBA has ever seen. That Laker team, he helped bring about generations of titles. He came in at a moment where Kareem was there and Magic had been drafted, but he built the pieces around the James Worthys of the world. All-Star Hall of Famer James Worthy. He brought them around and made them great. Then he managed to get Shaq from Orlando, a generational talent. He managed to get Shaq from Orlando to LA. And then he engineered a draft day trade with the Charlotte Hornets in 1996 that brought a guy you may have heard of him named Kobe Bryant to the Los Angeles Lakers in a trade for Vlade Divac, who he had to trade anyway because he was getting Shaq. And then he drafted well. He traded well. He put the right pieces of the puzzle in place, bringing Phil Jackson on board. He did all of the things you need to do to put a team together. Jerry West knew the psychology of a superstar. He knew the makeup of a team, and he knew how to put that team together. And then when that team went away and he traded Shaq to Miami, what did he do? He brought in another team. He drafted Andrew Bynum, and when he was healthy, he was the best or second best center in the NBA. He brought in Pau Gasol. He made a trade with Memphis that people thought was idiotic. But the Marc Gasol trade turned out to be brilliant for Pau Gasol. We'll talk about it. It wasn't powerful for Mark, really, but Mark ended up being the draft pick in that trade and ended up being a very wise trade for Memphis, where Jerry West was at the time. In other words, let me put it differently. Jerry West did a trade that people thought was his worst, and it turned out to be a genius move. And he helped build another star-studded franchise over in Memphis. And then after he left Memphis, he went to the Clippers, where he brought Paul George and Kawhi Leonard. He's worked with the best of the best. We use the word genius too often, but I don't think there's anybody who exemplifies basketball genius more than Jerry West. Mr. Clutch was a Hall of Famer. He was on the 1960 Olympic team. He was an extraordinary talent, so extraordinary that he's in the Hall of Fame 3 times, 3 inductions into the Hall of Fame. And on top of all of that, maybe the greatest feather in his cap, as far as I'm concerned, is that the great Jerry West hated the Celtics. That's good enough for me. So, Mr. West, thank you for a job well done. Thank you for building the NBA up to what it is right now. Thank you for being the logo. Thank you for giving us fans some of the greatest basketball moments we've ever had in our lives. The league thrives because of you. Rest well, sir. Job well done. All right, family, that is it for tonight's episode of Night School. Make sure you hit the like button. Let the YouTube algorithms know that they can't just bend toward corporate media. We got something for you over here. Make sure you let them know that corporate media is not the only game in town, but independent grassroots media also matters. Also hit the subscribe button. If you want to help us expand our media footprint, hit the subscribe button and let the channel be bigger. Also, hit the join button if you're so inclined to become a monthly subscriber to the channel. I promise you, when you hit that join button and become a monthly subscriber, you help us meet our monthly and annual goals. We are trying to build a new full studio. We are trying to hire more staff, more writers, more cameramen. We are trying to hire more editors. We are building more platform space so there can be even more voices and more programs on this channel. We want to turn Night School into a much bigger and farther reaching independent media program. We can do it, but we can only do it with your help. I don't have a billionaire writing me a check. I don't have corporate media propping me up. This is all on the muscle. This is all from the people and for the people. And if you can't make a monthly commitment, everybody just use Cash App, PayPal, Venmo, or Zelle to make a one-time payment. If everybody right now watching were to make a donation for the month of June of just $10, everybody watching right now could just donate $10. We'd be able to meet our goals for payroll. We'd be able to put something down on the building fund, as I like to call it, which is the studio space. We'd be able to create something special with just $10 from each and every one of you. And if you don't have 10, give 9. If you don't have 9, give 5. If you don't have 5, give 1. And if you don't have anything, just hit the like button and just keep sharing the content after you subscribe, because that is the most important thing. Expanding our message and extending our reach. And again, family, we can only do that through you. So thank you for watching. I'll see you tomorrow. Peace.